Thank you for joining us today, Dominique. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Just tell us your name, if you use a pen name, where you're from, all the goods.
Okay, I'm Dominique Davis. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, born and raised. I use my name, Dominique Davis. I actually didn't think of a pen name until after I published, and I was like, oh well, Dominique Davis.
Okay, cool. So born and raised right here in Detroit. When and why did you actually begin writing?
I started writing early on when I was like a teenager, but I didn't realize as a child that this could possibly be a career for me. It was just something I did.
Mhm.
It took me to become a nurse and realize that I had more to offer to the world, and I just started writing
Okay, awesome. So you said a nurse is not enough. I have more to offer this world.
at a broader platform.
Absolutely. I love that. Now, I know you said it came from teenage years. When did you actually first consider yourself a writer? Was for it?
It took a while to sink in. Even now, when I see my books on different platforms, I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually an author. But when I started writing, I did not accept that I was an author until I got officially published. But once I put in my mind and started giving myself deadlines, then
Mhm.
I said, okay, this is serious. I'm actually a writer. And I wrote on a schedule and I gave myself deadlines until the book was finished. And it took me probably about a year when I consistently stuck to the schedule.
Awesome. And I like that accountability came into play, and that's when you're like, okay, now
Mm-hmm.
I'm a writer because I have deadlines and things I need to consider and handle and take care of. So I applaud you for that. Now, Dominique, are you an independent author, self-published, or do you have traditional publishing?
I'm what you call an
Mhm.
indie author. I self-publish. Everything is done by me. Promotion, editing, etc. Everything is outsourced and done independently by me.
Okay, and why did you choose that route?
It always goes back for me to time and time management and being your own boss.
Okay.
So if I chose to traditionally publish, I may have a larger platform, but I'm working for someone else. And my
Hmm.
creative control rights are somewhat taken away from me, and I still have to answer to someone else. So I chose just to be independent so I can become my own boss.
I understand, I've gotten a variety of answers to that, but one that seems to ring true with many of the authors that I do speak with is being able to have control of your work and being your own boss. So I certainly can see how that can help. As an indie author, what's been your experience thus far?
It's been a learning experience first and foremost. I'm trusting the process. I learn things every day. And as I learn, I write down things because I want to be able to help other people that's going through the same thing I'm going through as far as self-publishing. There's a
Mhm.
very large community of self-publishing, but it's not enough resources out there to help us get the right type of help. There's a
Okay.
lot of price gouging and things of that nature. But if you get the right mentor and the right people around you, it's definitely possible.
Okay. Okay. Now, tell us about the book you're currently promoting. What's the name of it and how'd you come up with that name?
The book I'm currently promoting is called You Say Killer, I Say Daddy, a 10-year-old perception of abandonment and self-discovery. Actually the book originally, the title was called Black Girl Perception.
Mm.
Okay. And I think I chose that title because I was hiding behind the things that I was going to say. So the word perception kind of disguises anything not as true or false because it's my perception.
Right.
So, but so I kept that name, made it my LLC, which is my publishing company, and then I got a mentor, Sean T. Blanchard.
Okay.
Um, he mentors a lot of people. He's also from Detroit. He had a bestseller, and we talked, and I told him a little bit about the book, and he came up with "You Say Killer, I Say Daddy." I got to snapping my fingers, and it's been that ever since.
Okay. I like it because I'm like I like the name that you have for, Black Girl Perception, but you say killer, I say daddy. That immediately caught my attention when I saw that on King Benjamin's page. I'm like, I would love to read that perspective. And I don't know if I would have had that same reaction with the other name, but this one here definitely caught my attention. So your mentor told you right, at least for my perspective. I think that was a good change.
I definitely agree with him. As soon as he said it summed up the whole book. And after I wrote it, I was like, that's definitely what the title should be. Mm-hmm. After writing.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, the title kind of helps us understand, but please, what inspired you to write this book? And, how did you come up with the idea?
I was in a place where I needed to figure out why I was here, right? I started writing a couple years ago, and I was in a marriage that I need to get out of. Writing always been therapy for me, but I had to figure out the source of the problem. I had to diagnose myself, somewhat give myself therapy. So when I started writing, I came up with the day that all the trauma occurred in my life, which was the day that my dad murdered a close friend of his. So the writing began from that day on, and I just started recalling different events in my life that happened prior to, this present time.
Absolutely. So I definitely already know that the experiences listed in this book were based on your life experience and those people, your family members and friends that you mentioned in the book. Was that hard for you?
It was very hard for me to go back to that place because growing up, we were taught to be seen and not heard. Mm-hmm. So when I started writing, this was one of the first times our family, even my siblings, discussed anything that happened to us, and that was over 15 years ago.
Wow.
So I had to relive each event each time I wrote a scene in a book.
Yeah.
So it was hard.
I can only imagine. Now, I know that it's hard to relive those events, but what was the hardest part for writing the book?
The hardest part for writing the book was making my adult self transform into a 10-year-old mindset, 10-year-old's perception. Mm-hmm. I had to morph into that 10-year-old child again. Mm-hmm. So that was the hardest part.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. And what would be the easiest part of writing the book?
The easiest part of writing the book, I think, is that now that's the hardest question. The easiest part of writing the book. The easiest part writing the book is There's no easy part of writing this book. I would say reading the book, but it's harder to read than it is to write once you reflect on everything that's happened. Especially when you write nonfiction. I think if you write fiction, the easiest part of writing fiction is you can just explore and let your mind wander. But when you write nonfiction, everything is straight to the point. Everything is a matter of fact. You can't embellish. It's a true story. So unless it's a happy story, it's no easy part of writing a book that's nonfiction with a lot of trauma.
And especially considering the title, you can't even fathom like there would be a easy or a happy or anything associated with that based on the title, and especially considering the age you were when all of this began. But no, I was just stating that based on the title of the book, you wouldn't expect it to be an easy or a happy or anything associated with it, but definitely a cleansing in the very least.
It definitely was cleansing. It put my life in so much perspective that after I wrote this book, or even during writing this book, it was like putting a mirror right in front of me. It was like I knew how I got there. I knew how I had to get away from the situation, and I knew how I had to move forward to help other people. It was a complete mirror.
Absolutely. And even within when I read the book, and to know that, okay, my childhood was nowhere near being the same as yours, but to listen to the words you were thinking at that age helps me understand if someone else that I could reach out and help, the things that for you didn't help, that people thought they were helping, especially not discussing, not talking, and the veil that you had to put on, the strength you had to display is so much to put on a child. And often I think that we forget, well, it's some adult stuff that needs to be handled, and we'll push the child away, or say it's not your concern. But when
Right.
you grow up so fast, it becomes your concern.
It does.
Yes.
Because you can't, you'll be surprised what your kids already know you're going through. Whether they know even the smallest things, they know that you have to work and take care of the bills. They know that you have to buy food. They know the struggles that you already having without you saying anything.
Yes.
And something dramatic as dramatic as a murder or any type of trauma, a child knows way more than what you think. So it's just better to talk to them about it and even let them write about it. Like, it has to get out.
Yes, absolutely. And it helps me personally. That's why I took this perspective to heart, because of what I know my children have to see with me in the condition that I have, where they know, especially my son who's only 4, he'll come up to me and sit right by me, right next to me, because he knows something's not right. And I'll say I'm okay, but he's like, no, you need to rest, mommy. I'm going to take care of you. And while I don't want him to grow up and lose that innocence so fast, I'm happy that he has the eye to notice it, that he's not just oblivious to what's happening, so that if there's someone else that he's around and he sees, okay, they need help, he knows to get them that help.
Right. I think it's our nature to want to help, even as young as, like you said, your son 4 years old, and I was as young as 10, but I was the eldest. I had a natural ability to want to help my mother, my father, my siblings, and everyone around me. But from the adult perspective, I'm just being a big sister. I'm just being a child. But the worry of the world is still on kids' shoulder if you don't talk about it and work through the struggles that they have and you have. You guys share the same household. There's no way that you shouldn't discuss certain things.
Yes, yes, I definitely agree with you on that one. Now, is there a message in your novel that you would like your readers to get?
My main message is I want people to be able to relate. Like, 1 out of 5 people have parents that's been incarcerated. Over almost over half African Americans have had a mother or a father incarcerated at some point in their life. So a lot of people can relate to this story. However, the children is almost always overlooked in a situation like that. I want people to know that they have a voice. Explain to them what's going on, and we have to get rid of the old saying, "As kids should be seen and not heard," and "do as I say, not as I do" type of thing. We have to be strong mentors for our children, because what we do to our children as they're growing up, it scars them into their adulthood, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. I was in a situation that I probably would have never been in if this event had never taken place, or if it was handled differently. We value ourselves differently when we carry baggage from our past. So I just want people to know that through writing, you can heal. And through reading and listening to different perspectives, there's healing in opening your perception.
Absolutely. Now, you spoke of the child. Can you tell me more about what you do to advocate for children?
I also just started a nonprofit called Break Our Chains. And what this organization does is support kids or children with incarcerated parents. As we know, the world is shut down, but when it opens back up, I would like, and this is my mission, is to get 20 children to and from the prisons to visit their parents, because that was the number one struggle that we had growing up. Um, as everybody know, or maybe you don't, my dad has been locked up for 20 years now. So the number 20 is very significant to me, because for 20 years I have been without him, and I want to have 20 kids go to and from the prisons at all times so they can keep that line of communication and that bond open.
Absolutely, because regardless of what happened, that mother or that father is still a mother or father, and that child still needs to have that bond. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is an amazing desire and passion that you have. And if there are ways for us to help, let us know so that we can help facilitate that goal of yours to happen.
Definitely. Thank you.
Absolutely, you're welcome. Now, if you had to do it all over again, is there anything that you would change about your book?
Um, hmm. I think I wouldn't change anything about the book. I know from researching different writers, they say they get better with each book that they write. So um, later on down the line, you ask me this, I'll probably say I hate the book. I don't like it at all. But moving forward, I think the most important thing for an indie author is to create a platform, because the platform on Instagram and Facebook is not large enough when you're not quote unquote a celebrity status. So once your family and friends buy the book, boom, the book has died. You work 2 years, 3 years, or however long it takes to create a book, and then that's it. People read it, they move on, and then they waiting for the next book. But this is taking a very long, it's taking a lot of dedication to
Absolutely.
get this book, and then it's over with as soon as they read the book. They read the book in 2 days. They're like, okay, what's next? Like you a machine. So
Mhm.
I think what I would do over is promote differently. But there was no way I can know that until I go through the steps of what I'm doing now. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just learn as I go and take notes and enjoy the process.
Awesome. Now, because I read it via ebook, and I prefer actual paperback, and I didn't see it listed on Amazon. Is it not listed on Amazon, or did I just overlook it? How are you able to get an actual paperback?
No, it's not listed on Amazon.
Okay.
I choose to have my supporters go directly to my website,
Hmm. Okay.
because as we know, Amazon takes a portion of the proceeds and leaves you with a little bit of nothing. So I'd rather do the ebook at a broader. The ebook is the same information. I can still get my book to millions of people,
Mhm.
but I can still keep some type of monetary gain if you go through my website.
Okay. I wish I would have known that, because I would have rather have purchased it directly from your website. But like I said, I saw it on so on King Benjamin's page, and I'm like, oh, awesome. I definitely want to grab this. And I wish I would have known that I could have had the paperback through that site, but no worries. I'll fix that.
Thank you.
Now, I think I know the answer to this question, but I don't know. How many books have you written?
I have only completed this book. I actually writing 3 books at the same time while writing this book, and I
Hmm.
had to focus on getting this book done.
Hmm.
But this is the only book that's published right now.
Okay. Well, but you still have the other ones in the works, so
I
we
do.
we waiting. We just waiting on those to come out too. That's no worries there. No worries there. Now, since you're still in the process of writing, are any of those actually finished and you just haven't published them yet, or they're all still being written?
They all still being written. I have a tendency of bouncing around. I'm
Mm.
in the process of putting out a workbook that I felt was a very it was in need, a workbook for healing.
Mm.
So the book will be a workbook this, with references from You Say Killer, I Say Daddy, and
Mhm.
then it will be writing assignments to help people write and have therapy at the same time. And also, if you want to put author in front of your name, it'll be information to help you with that as well.
Wow, I like that. That's a nice one there. I like that. So out of all of those, like, would you have a favorite between the ones that you're writing, the one that's currently published? Do you have a favorite?
You know, I think this book will always be my baby because it's actually true life events. But I
Mhm.
have more fun writing fiction because my mind can explore and I can be more creative. And I don't even know where the characters are going. So I
Yeah.
have more fun writing my fiction books. I
Okay.
do.
I can see that. It's you have to, like you said, it was like a mirror in front of your face when you're writing what is true, what actually happened. So I can see that the fun coming out of it, depending on the situation, of course, but definitely in your case, it was a, introspective time
Right.
to write in that manner. Now, when do you plan on releasing these other books?
I
Especially
don't.
the workbook. I think that's
The
awesome.
workbook is coming really soon. I want to say the workbook will be out before February.
Okay.
I'll already have book covers and everything lined up, but I want to make sure that I'm giving people the most information I can give as far as healing, as far as writing techniques, creative writing techniques, and as far as what do I do once I finish writing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all going to be in the workbook, and I want to help publish people from age 13 and up. This is not just an adult thing because I
Okay.
started writing seriously at the age of 13 and then I put it to the side or whatever. But I don't want that young voice to be ignored. I want people as early as 13 to start publishing and become authors.
Yes, because if you can lose some of its authenticity
Mm-hmm.
because we're jaded by being adults. But I would love to have that perspective strictly from those tender years and show the growth as you move down the course of time. I think that's
Wouldn't,
awesome to have.
wouldn't that be awesome
Yes.
to have followed your favorite author from the age of 13 to adulthood?
Yes, no different than like all of these artists that we follow in the music industry,
Right.
in movies, to see them grow up from being little babies to the adults and the evolution that occurs. Absolutely, I think that would be amazing to see that process in a book as well.
Exactly, and I'm here to make that happen for them.
Yes, yes, I love it. I love it. Now, what separates you from other authors in your genre?
What separates me, as you know, it's a lot of seriousness about with the book, but I like to take the edge off every so often. It's not about all the grit and grime and sweat and tears and crying. I like to create humor. I
Mhm.
like to take our bad experiences and you can still find some type of humor in every bad experience I had. It was something you can just chuckle about after you probably got through wiping your tears. You could laugh at it, and
Mhm.
I think that's what separates me from a lot of authors. I don't take away the authenticity of these events. Yeah, bad things happen, but we know how to laugh at ourselves and move on. And I think that's what separates me from the rest of the authors.
Yes, yes, because you wouldn't expect to have some lighthearted moments in You Say Killer, I Say Daddy, but there definitely were some lighthearted moments, and you saw how, despite the life choices that some of the people in your life made, they were still humans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So
And,
I like that.
and you know what's so crazy? Because after I wrote the book, but like way before I even thought of the book even being an actual book, I always talked about my dad all the time, right? So people never knew my dad was even in prison. People never knew my dad had gotten in an accident and became paralyzed. I always talked about the good things about my father.
Mhm.
So when I wrote the book and after I was done, I realized I immortalized my father.
Mhm.
So people who have never gotten to meet him because he's been locked up for the last 20 years, now they know my father.
Mhm. Yeah. And I'm a daddy's girl, and just to hear how, like, in one moment, how everything changed for you, and to have that daddy's girl title kind of change all of a sudden is, I think that's what brought me closer to it, because no matter what, that's still your daddy. And I think
Exactly.
we forget about that part, like, oh well, they did this, well, but it's still my daddy. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's important for you to still have that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And despite what happened, you wanted to remember the good that was the man that is your father.
Right. We all know facts. We all know things that happen in our lives, whether they be good or bad. But you can always, like, you go back to watching those ID channels and people like, well, he was a good person. And he was just, it's always a light in a dark tunnel. You know what I'm saying? And especially him being my father, that's all I saw was my dad in this light. And I knew the other side. And in the book, both sides are seen. But I wanted the reader to take away their own perspective of what type of person he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say sympathize, but recognize, like you said, that he is human and people do make mistakes, but he was a good person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, is worth reading to understand how he got to where he is. Everyone has a story to tell, and not only is his story captured within the pages of your book, but so is yours. And it's important to have those stories. It makes us better people.
Right.
Yeah, it definitely makes us better people.
Especially
Now,
as
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
especially as African Americans. We have to have stories that represent us strongly and securely without, and that's another reason why I didn't traditionally publish. I want this story to be authentic to us with no changes, no cleanups. Is raw. It is what it is. This is a Black story that we all can relate to. Not saying that it's just for us, but it's definitely biased.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I have 4 different reading lists for the book club, and you're on the Our Story reading list, meaning it's for us, written by us from our perspective, because our perspective is often overlooked. So it's important for us to hear our own stories, because you'll find that you can help someone who's been through that same thing but you're helping them from an authentic place, a genuine place, versus stereotyping what happens. No, this is actually what happens. I lived it, I understand it, and I want to help you understand how to get through that process. So I applaud you for telling us your story that we can relate to, because of us being of the same race, having that same color, having those same life experiences, regardless of if I didn't have that same experience, but I can relate because I'm a Black person, and I understand that our stories are far different from anyone else's.
Exactly.
All right. Now, do you have any advice for other writers?
My best advice for anybody who's not published yet is just to keep writing. I hear so many times that people say I started writing, but then I stopped. Your story needs to be heard. If you feel like it was worth writing, it's worth reading. And I feel like you need to just keep going, and you need to have a routine for yourself. Every writer has a certain time where they feel inspired. For me, it's when the sun go down after 6 o'clock. I don't know why. Find a time that is best for you, write, and don't stop. And even if it don't make sense, it's like a puzzle. You start a piece of the puzzle, and at the end, you put them all together, and you may not even use all the pieces to the puzzle, but at the end of the day, if you keep writing, you'll have a story that somebody can relate to.
Yes, and it's funny because I'm usually on my husband because he has written a book, but he hasn't published it yet. But I started writing 2 other books that I kind of just stopped during 2020 because life had got kind of crazy. But it just reminds me to just keep going. The story may evolve, it may change from what my original vision was, but don't stop.
Don't stop. Yeah.
Don't stop. Okay, well, we've dealt with the heavy part. Tell me, what is your favorite book of all time?
The Color Purple.
Look, you had an answer just like right away. I have some people give me such a like, I don't know. I thought about it. I couldn't. I love it. You know, I read The Color Purple as an adult recently. Like, it may have been last year or the year before. It's probably the year before, and I loved it. It's so much within those pages. It's so much. I can rock with you on that one. Color Purple was yes, Alice Walker did her thing in that one. Now tell me, because my book club is all about what spoke to your soul. After reading that book, what spoke to your soul?
The Color Purple is about women and about their different experiences and being uplifted at different times in their life and being abused. It's all about empowering Black women
Yes.
and different scenarios, different characters. And I always gravitated towards The Color Purple. Color Purple been my favorite movie. And as you know, I'm not even that old to relate to that movie like that. But I remember being 6 years old, wanting to watch The Color Purple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when I got old enough to read it, I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes.
I sometimes go back and forth like, man, I wish I would have read it much earlier in my life, but it wasn't time for me to read it yet. And I don't think I would have grasped what I did where I am now. So I let the books fall into my lap at the time that they should. And I'm just happy that I was ready. Yeah, I'm happy I was ready. Now, what are you currently reading?
I like to bounce around. So I listen to audiobooks. So right now I'm reading a book about authors and blogging and things like that. I'm also reading a book. I actually got it cropped up. I started reading this book called Educated because I'm a nonfiction reader. I'm reading Educated right now. And I started reading 50 Cent's book a little bit. I kind of dib and dab.
Okay.
I can, yeah.
I can see bouncing around. Now I have was it Tara Westover? That's her name of Educated.
Educated,
yeah. Okay, so she's been on my list, but I just haven't got around to it yet. Like, I don't know, it's not my time yet. But she's definitely on the list, and I've heard good things about 50 Cent's book though.
Yeah, I definitely dived into each one of the books, but like I said, I'll be so busy that I'll get into the book and then I'll start and I'll read another book. Mm-hmm. But another thing, if I'm not reading nonfiction, I'm reading spiritual books. So I listen to audiobooks as far as spiritual advice. Eckhart Tolle is one of my biggest spiritual mentors, and I listen to him audio all the time.
Okay. I recently read The Power of Now.
That's
exactly really what helped me get back into reading in 2020. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Mm-hmm. I got it together. Thank you. I needed that. Yeah. That was amazing book. Absolutely amazing book. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Now, Dominique, is there anything else that you need to tell us for your current readers, your future readers? The floor is yours.
Okay. For my current readers, I just want people to understand how important it is that we get the feedback, not just on Facebook or Instagram, but on platforms where the world can recognize us as a good writer. It's hard enough being self-published, but it's even harder when you know people support and like your material, but they're not leaving the reviews. No one knows how good my book is unless you guys tell them. So the platforms that I wish people would leave a review on: Amazon, Goodreads, or even Google. Those three things. You can go to Google, type the book in, it'll say leave a review, and you can leave a review. Goodreads, you create a profile. If you're an avid reader, that's a good way to get books. You type in the book, and my book will pop up, and you can leave a review. However, that's one of the most important things in word of mouth, you know, but definitely leave a review.
Well, I will be sure to leave a review. I typically, I don't know, it's anywhere between a week after, maybe 2 weeks after, before I'm actually mentally ready to leave my review, because I don't do the typical, oh, I liked it because of this, or I liked it because of that, or it was horrible. I don't do that. My review is to say, okay, this is what they give you, and these are the issues that they contend with within this story, but I'm going to tell you what spoke to my soul and what I gained from it. So that's why it takes me a little longer to write my reviews. But since I started the book club, I've made a conscious effort to leave a review for every author that I read. Now, I do the Amazon, the Goodreads, and of course on all my platforms. But the one I haven't even heard any other author mention is the Google. So I'm going to have to add that to my list.
Google, and I think is it Another one that people don't mention often is Bub. Is it BookBub?
BookBub, is that the? Yeah, I haven't really investigated that a lot, but I've been hearing it, so maybe I need to check that out too. BookBub. Yeah.
BookBub, a large community of readers, and not only is it a large community of readers, when you set up your profile, they'll email you books from your genre that
Mm.
you like, so that
Okay.
you can later on read them too.
Nice, nice, nice. I'll have to add that as well. Make sure we know about that one. But Dominique, I just like to thank you for, taking the opportunity to speak with us this evening. Your book is amazing. I thank you for giving us such an intimate look into the life of a 10-year-old in her perception of, you know, what you did. I mean, it's an amazing retelling. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I read it in one day. So it's a lot to digest, but I thank you for letting us have it. It's definitely needed. I thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate your feedback and reaching out to me. Thank you.
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Now, the very last thing, I always give you opportunity. Please tell us, how do we stay up to date with Dominique Davis?
You can stay up to date with visiting my website at www.blackgirlperception.com and subscribe. I'm constantly on Facebook, Dominique Davis, and my Instagram, black_girl perception. And I have a link tree in both bios so you can connect with me at any time. Also, people who want to become a writer or need a mentor or want to become closer with me as far as mentorship and anything that I have to offer for the future writers, you can pay for a paid consultation. That's in my link tree bio also. And I'll be here to help and guide you throughout the way.
Nice, nice, nice. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Again, you all definitely need to check out her book. You say killer, I say daddy. Um, Amazing. I thank you. And to all of my viewers, listeners, my fellow readers, as always, happy reading, and I will catch you guys next time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye bye.